It's stunning, it's absolutely stunning. On the one side you have the Annapurnas, you have beautiful Machapuchare, you have Annapurna South and Hyonchuli and also Annapurna Phang behind them. And on the other side you have a great panoramic view over a large part of Nepal. Over the middle hills you can see Pokhara, you can see Pheva Lake. It's amazing views here. Namaste, Tashidilek, and welcome back to The Man Who Stared at Mountains. And good morning from Mardi Himal viewpoint, below beautiful Mount Machapuchare right behind me. This time we will take you on a 2-week trek along the southern slopes of mighty Annapurna Himal. But before I show you all this, let me first introduce you to who I'm with, where we are, and what exactly our plan is. This time the man and the lady staring at mountains with me are Ruth, Tobias, Chris, Elias, and our friends Suman and Shukra, who you probably remember from our big Gokyo trek last year. If you haven't seen our video on Gokyo, make sure to check that out as well. I put a link to it into the top right corner of your screen. Together, we're of course back in Nepal, but this time we're in the western half of the country near the large city of Pokhara, which you can reach from Kathmandu within half an hour by flight or in about 7 to 9 hours on the road, depending on vehicle, time of day, traffic and road conditions. Pokhara sits at the shore of gorgeous Lake Pheva at an altitude of just 800 meters, right between the gigantic mountain ranges of Manaslu Himal, Annapurna Himal and Dhaulagiri Himal, together featuring the 7th, 8th and 10th highest mountains in the world. Our plan this season is to visit several spectacular viewpoints along the southern slopes of Annapurna Himal. First, and the focus of this video, the Mardi Himal viewpoint between Machapuchare and Annapurna South. Afterwards, in the next episode, the world famous Annapurna base camp, right below the huge south face of Annapurna 1. And in the last episode, the almost unspoiled Muldai viewpoint, the ridge at Kopra Danda and the sacred Khyar Lake. All that within about 2 weeks time. If you want to make sure not to miss the next videos, and I hope you want to make sure, please subscribe to our channel so you get notified once they are online. But now, without further ado, let's focus on the star of this video, the Mardi Himal Trek. It mainly follows a long ridge leading up to the foot of beautiful Mount Machapuchare and can be completed within as little as 4 days, while most hikers take 5 or 6 days to enjoy the trek. Because we want to hike the Annapurna base camp trek next, we will descend on Mardi's western slopes towards the Modikola Valley. But as for the start, there are several possible places to begin the Mardi Himal trek. For example, Siding, Dampus, Kane or the road near Landruk, which is where we will come down afterwards. We start our adventure in early afternoon with a quick 45-minute drive from Pokhara to Kane, from where we set off straight away to hike to Australian camp, which barely takes more than an hour. The next morning, the weather is a lot clearer, revealing the whole Annapurna range to us for the first time. This great sunrise even puts the Nepali visitors at Australian camp in a very good mood. The first proper day on the trek won't be a child's play like the warm-up walk to Australian camp though. Passing through the villages of Potana and Pitam Deorali, we climb up to forest camp at Kopra, sitting at an altitude of more than 2,400 meters already. From Australian camp, it takes just half an hour to get to Potana and another hour to Pitam Deorali. Between there and forest camp there is no other village, but some single tea houses along the way. One is at Danda, about 1 hour above Pitam Deorali. Another one is currently being built at Panikal Pokhara, another hour further. We ended up having lunch at Kaka, which is about 4 hours walk from Australian camp and less than 1 hour before you actually reach forest camp. The next day we continue to hike through dense jungle and pass by several well-placed but very confusingly named clusters of tea houses. After 30 minutes you reach rest camp, and after 1 good hour more, low camp, sitting at an altitude of a bit more than 3,000 meters. In total it takes about 2.5 hours from forest camp to the lower part of mid camp, which is also called Badal Danda. We decide to walk to the upper area of Badal Danda, another half an hour further, to have lunch there. On the way though, we first meet a large herd of sheep and goats about to get a fresh haircut.
That's really so just
Above Bad Danda, there is another handful of lodges called Lower High Camp on some maps, adding to the whole camp confusion. Proper High Camp though is situated at roughly 3,600 meters and took us 1.5 hours to reach from Bad Danda. There is now about 10 or so lodges in High Camp to accommodate the more and more increasing number of hikers on the Mardi Himal Trek. Despite the cloudy weather, we got treated to a spectacular sunset there. But for the next morning and for our push to Mardi Himal viewpoint, we hope for the weather to clear up during the night.
Welcome to Mardi Himal.
You will reach Mardi Himal viewpoint about 1.5 hours after you started walking from High Camp. It's not very steep. There is one section that is a little bit more steeper shortly before you reach the viewpoint, but really nothing very difficult. It's stunning, it's absolutely stunning. On the one side you have the Annapurnas, you have beautiful Macha Picchu, you have Annapurna South and Hyonchuli and also Annapurna Phang behind them. And on the other side you have a great panoramic view over a large part of Nepal. Over the middle hills you can see Pokhara, you can see Pheva Lake. It's amazing views here. Up here at the viewpoint you can choose between several tea shops if you fancy having a tea. Most of them are just little tents. You can also hike the ridge further up to Mardi Himal base camp. But after a while the trail gets pretty difficult, so we decided to stay down here at Mardi Himal viewpoint. It only takes like an hour to go back down from the viewpoint to the high camp. If you started in the early morning, you might be approaching lunchtime by now. You can either have lunch at high camp or you pick up your luggage, go a bit further down and have lunch later. So yesterday night we stayed at forest camp, just as we did on the way up to Mardi Himal, and today we descended down to the Mardi Himal valley, first to the large town of Landruk, and then on to Himalpani, where we are having lunch, and then on to Jhinu Danda, a small village on the way up to Chomrong, but this village has some hot springs. But first things first, the descent down to Landruk took us a bit more than 2 hours. It's about 800 vertical meters down. And then from Landruk on up the Mardi Himal valley towards Jhinu, it's a bit of Nepali flat, which means a little bit up, a little bit down all the way. So apparently the new bridge over the Mardi Himal, near the village of New Bridge, hence the name, has been swept away by the monsoon rains. So the locals just makeshift repaired the old bridge that is now, well, it still has a steel frame, but the floor is made of bamboo and it looks kind of flimsy. Turns out the makeshift wire and bamboo bridge wasn't the only bridge on the way to Jhinu worth talking about. Shortly before you reach the village, one of the longest and highest suspension bridges on any of Nepal's many popular trekking routes connects Jhinu Danda with the roadhead near Samrung. This 300-meter bridge not only dwarfs Hillary Bridge on the Everest trek, it also saves you an hour of walking compared to the much shorter old bridge further down the canyon. Before I introduce you to Jhinu's amazing hot springs and tell you what we're up to next, let me just quickly summarize our experience on the Mardi Himal Trek for you, so you have all the infos you need to do it yourself. Ignoring our 1-hour warm-up hike to Australian camp, the trek took us 4 days. While this wasn't too difficult, slower hikers should probably plan 5 days to have enough time to soak it all in. Depending on where you start and finish, a 30 minutes to 3-hour drive from and to Pokhara is included. To get to Pokhara from Kathmandu, you'll need a 30-minute flight or a 1-day bus ride. In terms of permits, as of fall 2022, you only need the Annapurna Conservation Area permit for about $25, as TIMS is currently not required along the trails in Nepal. This could very well change in the future, so check before you set off. Hiring a guide is not mandatory on the Mardi Himal Trek. If you bring a GPS app like maps.me or mappy.cz, navigation is easy enough to not get lost. The highest point most people sleep at on the Mardi Himal Trek is High Camp at 3,600 meters. From there, the majority of hikers visit the Mardi Himal viewpoint, sitting between 4,000 and 4,100 meters. Very few go on and climb to the actual Mardi Himal base camp at about 4,600 meters. The Mardi Himal Trek is probably one of the easiest treks in Nepal that cross an altitude of 4,000 meters. It's quite short, the trails are in excellent condition, and there is no stretch longer than 2 hours without a tea house. Also, most of the uphill climbs are regularly interrupted by some flat sections in between. That also means it's quite safe. The Mardi Himal Trek got very popular recently, so you're hardly ever alone on the trail. The highest place to sleep is at just 3,600 meters, which means mild altitude sickness is possible, but severe effects are very rare. In case of an emergency, the next road is never further away than 1.5 days of walking. Plus, Pokhara, a large city with multiple hospitals, is literally in viewing distance. Therefore, as you probably already guessed, the Mardi Himal Trek is not one of Nepal's remote wilderness treks. It's a popular short trek close to a rather densely populated area. There is even phone reception along most of the way. The standard of lodges is very solid. Most of them offer Western toilets, hot showers and Wi-Fi. Only once we had to make do with a bucket shower. Keep in mind that even though many new lodges were built recently, these guest houses can get crowded, especially during the Nepali holiday season in fall. One of the major downsides of this trek, once you properly ascend Mardi's Ridge, there are no actual villages, just lodges. So don't expect any village life, temples, gompas, stupas or any other sort of cultural significance. You can combine the Mardi Himal Trek with a detour to Landruk or Gandruk though to soak in some of the lifestyle of the local Gurung tribe. The major upside? Pretty much no other trek takes you that close to Nepal's 7,000ers in that little time. You walk uphill for 2 or 3 days and you're surrounded by Annapurna South, Hyunchuli, Gangapurna and Manchapuchari. For any beginner or anyone with very little time for trekking, the Mardi Himal Trek offers fantastic scenery. Besides the mountains, you get dense jungle, wonderful forests and amazing panoramic views across Nepal's middle hills and the Ganges plains behind them. So what do you think? Will you give the Mardi Himal Trek a try? Or did you already? If so, we really want to know how you liked it. Please don't forget to comment below. But for now, let's head back over to Jhinu and finally check out those hot springs. Those are located 25 to 30 minutes walk below the village and it's 100 rupees admission for foreigners, so like 80 cents. Down by the Modikola river, you'll find several concrete pools, filled with a mix of river water and the water of the natural hot springs there. And soaking in them with a cool beer in hand after a multiple day trek through the Himalaya is just glorious. Our trek is far from over though. We will in fact start our Annapurna base camp trek straight from Jhinu. And afterwards, there is still Kopra Danda and the spectacular Muldai viewpoint waiting for us. All that and more coming during the next few weeks. So definitely make sure you don't miss this. If you subscribe to our channel, you'll automatically be notified when these videos are released. Also, if you liked this video or even found it helpful, please also leave a like. Of course, you can also use the comment section below to ask anything you'd like to know related to trekking in Nepal. That said, thank you very much for watching and I'll hopefully see you soon in our Annapurna Basecamp video.